Hey, welcome back. This is Mascis with Dueling on Earth. We're going over games in this video. We're actually going to go over rounds 4 and 5 from the FLC number 5. In round 4, I play my teammate from Damage Step. I was banned on DN, the eventual winner of the FLC number 5. And yeah, this is one of the games where I just completely mess up, and I get pretty salty about it. So there's this isn't one of the best ones. I don't know if it's a good one to go over as well, but we're going over it just because it's part of the series, and just to recognize some of the stuff that you actually can do in with the deck. So here, I already knew what deck I was playing against. He's playing a chaos control kind of deck. Also have some cool card choices here. I set the Cyberjar. I think he knows what I'm on, so he hits my Cyberjar here, and then he has to actually get rid of his, which is pretty good. But I decided I was going to set the Cyberjar here because if he has the knock, then I mean, like, you have to make them have the card. So, like, if he has the knock, then he has the knock. There's nothing you can really do about it. But if he doesn't have the knock, then we're in business because we're just going to be able to draw 5. And hopefully that'll get us out of the kind of mediocre hand that we have right now. So I draw here and just pass. Unfortunately, I have a DMOC stuck in my hand. There's not much I can do about it. He draws and then immediately sets the card that he drew. So that is kind of a big tell, but that's actually Morphing Jar. I know that he plays Morphing Jar because, again, I know his deck list, and that's just kind of like an advantage that sometimes you have if you're playing against a teammate or if you're playing against someone you play against a lot in your local meta, that you can make like some assumptions based off of it. The fact that he did use the knock and then didn't have a follow-up play after the knock does show me that his hand is weak. I mean, it could be like a card that draws him a card. It could be a Magician of Fate. But what I can recognize, at least from him drawing the card and then immediately setting it, is that his hand is very weak. So something that I can realistically do is that I can just discard the DMOC and pass in that regard because I do have the premature up. So this would allow me to actually, like, reasoning next turn into something, and then since I do have the Book of Moon here, one of the things that I could have did as well is I could have used reasoning. He may have hit the jar, and I may have hit the jar, and then I would have been able to use my Book of Moon on my own jar and then flip it up with Book of Tayu. But the reason I didn't want to do that is because if he called 2, since he knows what I'm on, then I would not have been able to actually like play. At that point, I would have had to use my premature burial to get back the guy and then get it up there. And then actually use the Book of Moon and everything else to do the play that I wanted to do. This means that I would have to put myself on actually drawing a soul exchange, or sorry, a soul release in order to go off with DMOC, because I wouldn't be able to, or at least maybe a card or like some spells and spell reproduction in order to use premature burial correctly. But the reasoning that I didn't use reasoning here is because I didn't have Monster Gate backup. This means that I'm not 100% going to hit the card that I want to hit. So if he actually called 4 and I hit 4, I would lose anyway. And that's not something that we want to do. We don't ever want to lose. So what I failed to recognize is that Book of Tayu actually says flip 1 face-down monster into face of attack position, which means I don't have to target my own monster. So if that card is actually Morphing Jar, like I assume, and like I'm making the read for, I could set my hand here, use Book of Tayu, and or set a bunch of cards here, use Book of Tayu, and then get rid of his hand, and draw 5 cards of my own, and actually continue to go off if I draw some good cards. What I could is use Giant Trine to clear this card out of the way, and then actually get rid of it with the Book of Moon, or with the Book of Tayu, if that is Morphing Jar. Which is something that I just failed to recognize, that this was actually a 100% play, that if that's Morphing Jar, then I get to basically just win the game in most cases. So in this case, I decided to just draw and pass because I'd rather use the reasoning here so that if I do miss on it, I can premature and actually get the card that I would want with DMOC here. And this way that I have the Mass Driver in my hand, I'm able to get rid of the DMOC, so when I do go off with Defusion, DMOC's already banished. I don't have to keep it in the graveyard, right? Because I do have the premature already. So I knew I needed to at least discard the DMOC, but I needed all these cards in my hand. I figured that, you know what, if it is Morphing Jar, I can't really do much against it anyway, so make him have the Morphing Jar, right? Even though I was thinking that, yeah, this is probably Morphing Jar because he just drew and set it. But I didn't see a way to really play around it. If I did set a lot of cards, he would be able to Heavy Storm and Morphing Jar me, which I don't want that to happen. So he was like, okay, he sees DMOC, he started to know what I was playing. He discards for Thunder Dragon there, so he drew the Thunder Dragon off the top, and then gets. And then this is where I absolutely just scoop because he sets his hand and then draws with Morphing Jar. So yeah, if I would have did the Book of Taiyu play, I would have recognized that I would have flipped that up and would have been able to do that. Yeah, if you see his hand, it's just a bunch of spells and stuff. And then BLS and Chaos Sorcerer, which I kind of assumed that it was some Chaos junk. And here, like, if I would have flipped the his own jar here, I would have had all this stuff that's in my hand, plus all this, like, Max Driver, this. So at least with the reasoning, I would have been able to hit one of the jars, and, like, because I would have the Monster Gate backup, so if he actually hits if he hits, like, the Cannon Soldier, then it's fine because I have the Premature to get back, like, probably the DMOC for one of the cards, and then use Monster Gate to distribute it off for the other jar, while if I hit the jar, if he hits the jar and I actually summon the jar, then I'm able to just, you know, do my book plays. Especially in this case because I would have been able to book it down with the other book that I had, and then Book of Taiyu. So unfortunately for me, I don't recognize the play here, and he just draws. I get duoed, and it's pretty much lights out for me for this game here. And I'm kind of on tilt for the remainder of the duel. He summons a bunch of stuff. I'm just not able to recover. And then at this point, I looked at my graveyard and I was like, wow, I just punted the whole thing. And yeah, I told him to play. I figured I knew it was Jar, and I just punted it because I didn't read my cards. So remember, this is actually, I think this is a good game to go over. I kind of want to rescind what I said at the beginning of the video because just read your cards. You might be able to find a play within the cards that you have if you're able to read them correctly. Here I draw a kind of slow hand, so I just want to reload, see if I can get some action. Unfortunately, I don't think I draw into any action, and he goes and he duos me, which is very unfortunate because I don't really have a response to this. I didn't decide in the Grindy Gate stuff because I figured that going first I would be able to beat him here. In this case, I want to play around a jar again, so I just set my hand, but then he has the Heavy Storm and just shows it to me. And there's really, at that point, when you don't have any cards to do anything with this deck, it's very, very hard to come back from 0 cards. It's not bad if you have, like, if they duo. I mean, it's bad if they duo you, but if you at least have cards to work with, you just need to get back into some cards. I'm just drawing here to see what I would have got, and yeah, I just sort of threw this one away. Wasn't really thinking everything through. And sometimes it just happens, like if you're playing for a long time, especially with a deck like this, is that you recognize certain lines that you're able to play and kind of memorize those certain lines. But when there is a play that you can make that isn't in the normal lines that you would make, sometimes you just don't make it out of fear of the unknown, out of maybe not thinking that it's a good, or because you haven't explored the line, you just are not comfortable with making it. So yeah, unfortunately, I just kind of punted this one away. I don't think it was something on the deck at this point. I think it was just something as me as a player failing to recognize when I should have did what. So yeah, I think this might have been better if I would have just kept my cards in my hand, but I was still afraid of the jar for whatever reason. So yeah. So going back here, let's load up the round 5 versus Dinosaur Ryuzaki. So yeah, round 5, we're 2-2 at this point in the tournament. I'm not going to be able to make the top cut, but I decide, well, no reason to just drop if I'm not even going to be able to make the top cut. Just rather play against someone and see if I am going to be able to, you know, like, actually test the deck a little bit more and see what I can do with it. So I draw a pretty okay hand because I have reasoning, I have monster gate, so I'll be able to do at least something here. I draw the spell economics too, but I decided to pass because I kind of want just like more cards and see what I get, make myself feel safer. He flips a decone and draws. He's playing a very similar deck to IwboDN's. It's a chaos deck that has a lot of cool tech cards. So here is where I think I go with the play with Trunade. He activates his card's response. Thankfully, Trap Dust Shoot isn't very strong here because it actually will put back the monsters from your deck, which is good for you. You don't actually want your monsters in your hand most of the time because you want to be summoning them off reasoning, especially if you only had DMOC. But he sees my hand, and he sees a bunch of these cards, and he just makes an error when he sees these cards. And when I use reasoning here, I figured that if he calls correctly, it doesn't really matter. So level 4 here, I'm perfectly fine with him calling because it's a 75% chance that I'm going to hit, and I do hit, and that's good for me because it lets me win the game. You get to Book of Moon here, and then have your extra 3 cards. I hit some good cards off of this too. I still have a normal summon as well. I think I flipped Monster Gate. Yeah, I flipped Monster Gate here. Get back a... I think I hit DMOC off of it. If I'm wrong again, I'm wrong again. But figure 50-50 on DMOC is pretty good. I hit the Cannon Soldier. So this means that, I mean, like, if I draw a Monster Gate, I'm definitely going to hit the DMOC. And then I'm in business because I have Mass Driver and everything. I just kind of... That's the missing piece. And I actually draw the DMOC here, but it's fine because I do have the Premature in my hand. Oh, I drew to 0 cards. Yeah. So when you know when you know your entire deck list, you got to just remember what you have in your deck and to make the reasonings and the and your actual your graceful charities and things like that good. Because if you actually get down to a very low deck count, you can just make sure that when you're doing the draw, you can get to 0 cards in your deck, and then you should have all the resources that you need to go off at least. And if I didn't have the resource here, I could, reload and then put cards back in my deck so I don't lose. But use the Cannon Soldier here because it's flashier and it's quicker. Less activations of cards. And then, yeah, that's an infinite loop. And we go to the rematch. So I actually side in the Chaos stuff, the Grindy Gate stuff. He hits a Thunder Dragon. And then T-sets. I hit a Chaos Sorcerer. And I decide here to go for a Monster Gate on the Cannon Soldier because I realize that if I do this, I want to set up for... what's it called? I want to set up for Chaos because I drew it. And I want to be able to kind of go off on him this way. I luckily hit a Dark Magician of Chaos. I think I get back Monster Gate. And I believe I use Monster Gate again to banish the DMOC and then get a Crane. Because in this case, I needed a light and not a dark. So I wanted to use that again and get this banished so that if I draw a what's it called? There wasn't a really great one to get back. I mean, I could have got back Goat, but if I draw a Defusion here, now my Defusion is already live. Getting a Crane is what's most likely going to happen once I use the Monster Gate here. So, yeah, I wanted to try and hit Crane and draw a card and see what I would have got. He uses Graceful and then he chains Jargreed, so that's pretty cool. Discards a Sinister and a Thunder Dragon, and then I think he sees what plan I'm on, so he decides that he wants to go off and try to do as much as possible to me. So he battles, and I decide, even though I have a T-Row down, I decide not to do that, because if he's going to battle me here and not banish, I have the Chaos Sorcerer in my hand, so I'm able to summon it now. So he sets 2. And I know that his deck plays trap cards. I'm kind of familiar with his deck, especially if he's playing like a Jargreed. And I'm also familiar with a card in his deck that he actually sets in a little bit, and you're going to see that card. It's Divine Wrath. So in this scenario, what I want to try to do is, since I drew the Defusion, which was a lucky top deck, I get the Chaos Sorcerer here, and the Defusion in this case is tricky because what happens with the Defusion is that he actually is going to get back 3 of these cards, and it's going to be the Thunder Dragons, like both the Thunder Dragons and one of the Dokoichis, and I still have to play around these trap cards. Now, I have a Metamorph here, so what I could do is I could Metamorph into Ojama King, and what that would do is that would make my Defusion play a little bit better because now I can summon Dark Magician and these 2 guys, and he wouldn't be able to get back any of his cards because Ojama King is on the board. But what that doesn't do is actually deal with both of the Chaos Sorcerers. If I use Defusion, I'm able to get back the DMOC and my stuff, and he gets back all of his stuff, and I'll be able to at least punch through with my guys, and then maybe I could banish with Chaos Sorcerer, and then use Meta and attack. But the problem with that is that if he has Divine Wrath or another trap card before I play, before I play the Dimension Fusion, then I'm gonna be like up shit's creek because I mean I don't know if he's gonna torrential there, but he could have something, right? So I want to just try to play around as many options as I can. So I use the excuse me, I pass Prio here, and then I use Metamorph, and I get Ryuzaki. I think that's fine because at least he can't Snack Steal, he can't Book a Moon this. And if he does have a trap to like something like a bottomless trap hole, if he decided to have that, that would be terrible versus me. So like that, I mean against me if he had that. So I'm playing around like Mirror Force as well because if I need to attack into stuff, I want to be able to do that. And here I get all my guys back. In this chain link order, I use DMOC first and then Crane. And so if he needs to respond with the Divine Wrath, which he does, I think it's correct here, just so I don't get an extra card, but also so I don't draw an extra card, but also so I don't have an extra monster as well. I am able to get rid of that. I get my Pot of Greed back because I want to get as many cards as possible. And at least doing it that way protects my Crane. Pot of Greed into BLS, which is just very lucky. There's nothing more I can say about that besides it just being very lucky of me to have done that. And then I use the no, I actually Tribute Summon for Air Knight here in order to get the another Dark in the graveyard. But also just because I wanted to Tribute Summon Air Knight, I wouldn't use the Cannon Soldier effect there. Needed the Air Knight to get the extra card and do some damage through that. And then get the BLS here. I don't use the effects because I want to do as much damage as I possibly can. And it doesn't really matter, mainly because I'm going to be putting a Dark in the graveyard if I use the effect. And if he has a return from the different dimension or a Defusion, he's just going to be able to get those cards back. Rather make him have a Chaos Monster plus the card in order to get a card back. So attack here for that, do 900, draw a Mass Driver, which is alright, I guess. You can set it and bluff it. Attack into this. And he thinks for a little bit, and then uses the Book of Moon on that. So that's good that I drew out the Book of Moon. And then I attack one of the other Chaos Sorcerers to banish it with DMOC, and then I think I attack this guy, because just put some Darks in the graveyard. I mean, he already has a light. If Chaos is on, it doesn't really matter which one I attack. I'd rather hit him not maybe, like, flip that and get that back. So if he has a... Like, there's nothing that he can realistically Metamorph that's going to get over this anyway. I mean, what he could have did is maybe Metamorph into, like, Reaper and attack me directly. And then he doesn't have a guy that can die by battle, which forces the Blackluster Soldier to actually use his ability. He gets back this here and goes into the battle phase, which is great because that means what he was trying to do is he was trying to use the play where he would attack with this guy, and no, he would attack with the Thunder Dragon and then flip this up and then banish it. But since he goes directly into the battle phase here, and he puts this guy into attack to do so, I now use my Threatening Roar in order to, just stop his battle phase entirely, which is great. This is why I kind of kept on to this, because, I wanted the Crane to die, so I had a light in the graveyard for for my DMOC. But this is an instance where, I mean, Mirror Force would have did a little bit better here, but if he had something to chain with it, this is where Threatening Roar would have came in big. Because if he had something like Giant Trinator, if he had something like Mirror Force, he would have been able to Heavy Storm, sorry, if he would have had Mirror Force, or if I would have had Mirror Force and he had like a Giant Trinator or a Heavy Storm, he would have been able to use his spell card to just remove my thing. This is where Threatening Roar being chainable is really good. So he uses Monster Reincarnation to get back his guy and set. Then he switches that to defense mode. I draw a Crane here. It's just another monster. I think it's what I needed in order to overall kill him here. Flip this guy up to use his effect. I don't want him really drawing a card, and then I summon Sacred Crane. Attack with DMOC because I want to banish this guy. Yeah, if he has 2,000 life to pay, he has 2,000 life to play, but at least that puts him off of a like he would have to use Return to the Different Dimension unless he does run Dimension Fusion, which I don't know if he does. But I think that's the safest because that gets rid of it. And I mean, like, it also just actually gets rid of it because I attack into it. So he draws a card, gets back Sinister, and I believe he scoops here because he just didn't have anything. So this board was good enough to get there. Thinking about it, I mean, I had the match drivers, so if I saw something like that would have been an extra 2,000 damage, but I couldn't put in the 2,000 damage. I think what I would have had to do was maybe like, what was he at? He took 16 from the whole he took 416 from the whole exchange, so I would have had to still do 400 with. I guess I would have did what? If I knew that was Dekoichi, so would have had to attack here. Like that's the thing, is that if I didn't know that was Dekoichi, like the safest play in this case is to use the BLS to get rid of the down card because we don't know what that is. We could think that it's Dekoichi, if he uses the monster reincarnation and then gets Dekoichi back. But if it's not Dekoichi, then it could be something crazy like a Night Assailant. So the safest play is to just banish it and get rid of it. But what we could have did here is off the top with the Sacred Crane. I think the math works out where you attack with Crane, flip this up if it's Dekoichi, then they get the draw card, attack the defense position guy. That's 2,000. No, that's 2,000 defense, so that goes away. And then attack the Thunder Dragon with BLS. That's 14. Another 3,000. Another 2,000. So that would have been 54, and then 54 plus what's it called? Plus 2 or 16. So 54 and 16. Let's do the quick math here. 54 and 16. I think that's 7,000, right? And he took 11 before, so that would have been game. But the reason why I didn't do that is, again, if that's something like the again, if that's something that's like a Night Assailant that could block me, which I believe we did see in game 1, when we did do the discards, he got back a Mission of Faith with Night Assailant. Like he could be faking me out by using the Monster Reincarnation to discard like his guy and get back Dekoichi, so me thinking that it's Dekoichi, I would just blindly attack into it, and then he's safe for another turn. And I mean, it might have worked out where it didn't really matter, because if he draws into like the dead hand that he drew into, then he still couldn't have won the game. But I think that flipping it up and banishing is still just like the safest play possible. And this board is already hard to out because you have to like, I mean, he needs to specifically have a snatch steal, which is very hard to just like have, like when you are using you already use Monster Reincarnation to get a card back, and then like one of those cards is Sinister. So like I'm not sure if he already probably would have used it if he didn't draw it already, right? So I think I just made the absolute safest play there. Even though if you do the math, I would have had him for game either way, because of the mass driver giving me the extra 16 damage, and I would have been able to find that through by attacking with making the correct attacks. But we still won, and I think that overall the deck did had a pretty well showing, like a pretty good showing. Some of the games that I lost were, again, I lost it because I, as a pilot, lost it. The deck may have I took the chances that I needed to make on one of the games and wasn't rewarded for it, which sometimes that happens. But it's better to make that play and not get rewarded for it than not recognize that play at all, and not see yourself not giving yourself the best chances to win is better than it's worse than just sitting there and just playing bad. You know what I mean? That I hope I explained that well. Just if you when you get yourself and make the plays that give you the best chances to win, it's better than just playing badly, even if you still lose after playing to your outs. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. So yeah, thanks for watching in. Thanks for going over this deck with me. And yeah, just subscribe for more content, for more GOAT duels, and more duel reviews, more deck lists, dueling on Earth.